What if disaster sent a warning? Not a crack in a wall or a tremor in the earth, but something else entirely. Imagine for a moment, a creature, a dark figure silhouetted against the twilight sky, appearing just before a tragedy strikes. Would you see it as a monstrous omen of doom, or maybe as a desperate messenger trying to alert you to the coming catastrophe? This is the central, chilling question at the heart of one of America's most compelling and unnerving legends. It's a story that, honestly, blurs the lines between folklore, paranormal mystery, and real-world disaster, forcing us to ask ourselves what we truly believe about the unknown forces that might exist just beyond the edges of our understanding. This isn't just a monster story, it's a deep dive into human fear and our search for meaning in the face of chaos. This brings us to a small, unassuming town nestled along the banks of the Ohio River, Point Pleasant, West Virginia. In the mid-1960s, this community became the epicenter of a phenomenon that would capture the world's imagination for decades to come. For 13 months, from November 1966 to December 1967, the residents of Point Pleasant reported seeing something truly extraordinary. They described a winged humanoid creature that seemed to haunt the local woods, back roads, and skies. They gave it a name that perfectly captured its strange, unsettling appearance: the Mothman. Its presence was a source of both terror and intense curiosity, turning this quiet corner of Appalachia into a hotbed of paranormal investigation and speculation. The story of the Mothman is more than just a collection of spooky campfire tales. It is deeply woven into the historical fabric of the town itself, forever linked to a tragedy that would scar the community. The sightings began as isolated incidents, whispers among neighbors about a strange bird or a man with wings. But as the reports mounted, a pattern began to emerge. The creature seemed to appear with increasing frequency, its presence casting a long, dark shadow over the everyday lives of the people who saw it. They were ordinary folks, factory workers, young couples, respectable citizens, who suddenly found themselves witnesses to something they could not explain, something that defied all logic and reason. As an explorer, I've traveled the globe chasing down legends, and I can tell you that the best ones are always anchored in a specific time and place. The Mothman legend is a prime example. It isn't a vague myth from a forgotten time, it's a modern mystery with documented eyewitnesses, specific dates, and a tangible connection to a real-world event. The question of whether the Mothman was a harbinger of doom, or simply a bystander to fate, is what makes its story so powerful. It forces us to confront the possibility that there are things in this world that we don't have answers for, mysteries that science and logic can't easily dismiss. It's a journey into the heart of fear, belief, and the enduring power of a good story. The story of the Mothman begins on a cold, dark night, much like any other in rural West Virginia. The date was November 15, 1966. Two young couples, Roger and Linda Scarberry, and Steve and Mary Millette, were driving near an abandoned World War II munitions plant, known locally as the TNT area. This place was already steeped in its own eerie history, a sprawling, isolated complex of concrete domes and overgrown roads. It was, the perfect setting for something strange to happen. As they drove, their car's headlights suddenly caught something that made them freeze in terror. It was a figure, standing by the side of the road, a figure that was clearly not human. They described what they saw with a chilling consistency that would be echoed by dozens of others in the months to come. It was a large, winged creature, perhaps 6 or 7 feet tall. Its shape was vaguely human-like, but it was its eyes that left the most terrifying impression. The couple said they were huge, round, and glowed with a hypnotic red light like bicycle reflectors. Paralyzed by fear, Roger Scarberry, who was driving, slammed his foot on the gas pedal, speeding away from the creature and heading back toward town. But to their horror, the thing didn't stay behind. It launched itself into the air with a powerful beat of its enormous wings and began to follow them. The chase was on. The creature effortlessly kept pace with their car, even as they pushed the speedometer past 100 miles per hour. Linda Scarberry would later recall hearing the sound of its wings, a great leathery flapping that seemed to be right outside her window. The creature didn't seem aggressive or hostile. It just followed them, its glowing red eyes a constant terrifying presence in their rearview mirror. It followed them all the way to the city limits of Point Pleasant, where it finally veered off and disappeared into the night sky. Shaken and terrified, the two couples drove straight to the Mason County Courthouse to report what they had seen to the police. Deputy Millard Halstead listened to their story, and while he may have been skeptical at first, he could see the genuine fear in their eyes. He knew these couples, they were not the type to make up such a wild tale. He followed them back out to the TNT area to investigate, but they found no physical evidence of the creature. No footprints, no feathers, nothing. But the story was out. The next day, the local newspaper, the Point Pleasant Register, ran a headline that would make history: couples see man-sized bird, creature, something. A reporter, trying to find a catchy name for the creature, dubbed it the Mothman. Inspired by the popular Batman TV series of the time, the legend had officially been born. So what did this creature actually look like? While every eyewitness account is unique, a remarkably consistent picture of the Mothman emerged from the dozens of reports that flooded in over the next year. The most universally described feature was its eyes. Nearly every person who claimed to have seen the creature mentioned its large, glowing, intensely red eyes. Some described them as being spaced far apart on its head, while others said there didn't seem to be a discernible head at all, just these two burning orbs set into its upper torso. This feature was often the most terrifying for witnesses, who reported feeling a sense of hypnotic dread when they looked into them. Next were the wings. The Mothman was, above all else, a winged creature. Witnesses consistently reported a massive wingspan, estimated to be between 10 and 15 feet. The wings were often described as being bat-like or leathery, not feathery like a bird's. Interestingly, many people who saw it in flight said it didn't seem to flap its wings very often. Instead, it would unfold them and glide silently and effortlessly through the air at incredible speeds, able to keep up with speeding cars with no apparent effort. This silent gliding motion added to its otherworldly and unnerving presence, making it seem less like an animal and more like something supernatural. The body of the creature was another point of eerie fascination. It was generally described as being the size of a large man, anywhere from 6 to 7 feet tall, with a broad, powerful build. Its body color was usually reported as being a dark gray or brownish color, which allowed it to blend in perfectly with the night. Most accounts noted that it was headless, or that its head was fused directly with its torso, with the glowing red eyes positioned where a human's chest would be. This bizarre anatomy made it all the more monstrous and difficult to categorize. Was it an animal, a man, or something else entirely? A being that defied all known biological classifications. Finally, there was its behavior. The Mothman was rarely described as being overtly aggressive. It didn't attack anyone or cause direct physical harm. Instead, its behavior was one of observation and subtle intimidation. It would perch on rooftops, stand silently on the side of the road, or follow cars for miles, always keeping a watchful distance. This passive, almost curious nature was perhaps more frightening than outright hostility. It created a deep sense of psychological dread among the residents of Point Pleasant. They felt like they were being watched by an intelligent, unknown entity whose motives were a complete and terrifying mystery. The creature was a silent observer, a dark sentinel watching over their town. For 13 months, the Mothman sightings continued to plague the Point Pleasant area, creating an atmosphere of fear and unease. The creature became a local boogeyman, a subject of hushed conversations and nervous glances at the night sky. But the story was about to take a dark and tragic turn, one that would forever cement the Mothman's legacy not as a monster, but as a harbinger of doom. The date was December 15, 1967, almost exactly 13 months after the first sighting. It was late afternoon, during the height of rush hour traffic, and the Silver Bridge connecting Point Pleasant, West Virginia, to Gallipolis, Ohio, was packed with cars full of Christmas shoppers and commuters heading home. Suddenly, without any warning, the massive steel suspension bridge groaned under the strain. One of the key components, a single eye-bar in the suspension chain, failed due to a microscopic stress crack. This single point of failure triggered a catastrophic chain reaction. In less than a minute, the entire structure twisted and collapsed, plunging dozens of cars and their occupants into the icy, dark waters of the Ohio River. The scene was one of unimaginable horror and chaos. Rescue efforts began immediately, but the freezing temperatures and the swift river current made their work incredibly difficult. The disaster was a national tragedy, a devastating blow to the small community of Point Pleasant. In the aftermath of the collapse, as the town reeled from its loss, a chilling new dimension was added to the Mothman legend. People began to connect the dots. The creature had appeared in November 1966, and the sightings had continued right up until the bridge disaster in December 1967, after which they abruptly stopped. Many locals started to believe that the Mothman's presence had not been a coincidence. They whispered that the creature had been trying to warn them of the impending tragedy. Some even claimed to have seen the Mothman perched on the bridge itself in the days or hours leading up to its collapse, a silent, winged sentinel watching over the doomed structure. The final death toll of the Silver Bridge collapse was 46 people. The tragedy left an indelible scar on the community, a wound that has never fully healed. For many, the Mothman became inextricably linked to that loss. The creature was no longer just a strange monster seen near the old TNT area, it was now a prophetic entity, a paranormal omen of death and destruction. This connection transformed the story from a simple creature feature into a profound and tragic piece of American folklore. The question was no longer just what is the Mothman, but was it trying to save us? This is the question that haunts the legend to this day. To truly understand the Mothman phenomenon, you have to listen to the people who were there. These weren't professional paranormal investigators, they were everyday citizens who found themselves face to face with the unbelievable. One of the most compelling accounts comes from a man named Newell Partridge, a local contractor. On the night of November 14, 1966, the night before the famous Scarberry and Mallet sighting, Partridge was at home watching television when his TV screen suddenly went dark and filled with a strange, swirling pattern. At the same time, his German Shepherd, Bandit, began howling on the porch, a sound Partridge had never heard before. He went outside with a flashlight to investigate and saw two large, glowing red circles in the darkness of his fields, which he initially thought were from a fox or another animal. He pointed his flashlight beam at the eyes, and Bandit, a seasoned hunting dog, shot off toward the mysterious lights. Partridge heard the dog let out a terrified yelp, and then there was silence. He was too frightened to go looking for his dog in the dark. The next morning, he read the newspaper account of the Scarberry and Mallet sighting, and the description of the creature's glowing red eyes sent a shiver down his spine. He realized that what he had seen was likely the same creature. His dog Bandit was never seen again. Another key witness was Marcella Bennett. A few days after the initial sightings, she was visiting friends who lived near the TNT area. As she approached the house with her baby daughter, she saw a large gray figure rise up from the ground beside her parked car. She described it as lying down, then slowly standing up. It was huge, with big red eyes that seemed to glow from within. Frozen in terror, she was so shocked that she dropped her baby. Thankfully, she snapped out of her trance, scooped up her child, and ran screaming into the house, bolting the door behind her. For the next several minutes, the creature circled the house, peering in the windows, its red eyes staring back at them from the darkness. Connie Carpenter, a young housewife, had her own terrifying encounter in November 1966. She was driving home from church when she saw a tall, gray figure standing in a field by the side of the road. As she got closer, it spread a pair of enormous wings and took off, flying directly toward her car. She said the glowing red eyes were hypnotic and filled her with an overwhelming sense of pure terror. She pressed her foot to the floor, accelerating as fast as she could, but the creature easily kept pace, flying alongside her car. She later stated that she felt it was playing with her, toying with her fear. These personal, visceral accounts are what give the Mothman legend its power. They are the human heart of this extraordinary mystery. As with any great mystery, everyone has a theory about what the Mothman really was. When you're on an expedition, you have to consider all the possibilities, from the mundane to the extraordinary. Let's start with the most popular scientific explanation. Many biologists and ornithologists have suggested that the creature seen by so many people was simply a misidentified sandhill crane. These are very large birds with a height of up to 4 feet and a wingspan that can exceed 7 feet. They also have prominent reddish coloring around their eyes, which could appear to glow when reflecting light from a car's headlights or a flashlight. The sandhill crane theory is plausible on the surface. These birds are not typically native to West Virginia, but they do migrate, and it's possible that a few of them strayed off course. A large, unfamiliar bird seen at night by frightened witnesses could easily be mistaken for something more monstrous. However, many eyewitnesses have pushed back against this explanation. They insist that what they saw was much larger than any crane, that its shape was more man-like, and that its eyes glowed with their own internal light, rather than simply reflecting it. The sheer speed of the creature, reported to be over 100 miles per hour, also doesn't quite fit the flight capabilities of a sandhill crane. Another set of explanations delves into the human mind. Psychologists and sociologists have pointed to the possibility of mass hysteria or collective delusion. The theory goes that after the first dramatic story was published in the newspaper, the power of suggestion took hold in the community. People were primed to see something strange in the woods, and their minds filled in the blanks, turning shadows, owls, or even airplanes into a terrifying monster. The TNT area, with its abandoned, spooky structures, was the perfect breeding ground for such a legend to take root. Fear is contagious, and once a story like the Mothman's begins to spread, it can take on a life of its own. Finally, we have the explanations from the world of folklore and the paranormal. Some believe the Mothman was a supernatural entity, a cryptid like Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster. Others, like the influential author John Keel, who wrote the Mothman Prophecies, suggested it was something even stranger, perhaps an ultra-terrestrial being from another dimension, whose appearance was somehow connected to windows opening between worlds. These theories also tie into local Native American legends of the Thunderbird, a giant winged creature said to possess supernatural powers. For those who believe the Mothman wasn't a bird or a delusion, it was a genuine brush with the unknown. The story of the Mothman didn't end with the collapse of the Silver Bridge. In fact, that tragedy was the catalyst that launched the legend from a local curiosity into an international phenomenon. The publication of John Keel's book, The Mothman Prophecies, in 1975 was a major turning point. Keel wasn't just a writer, he was an on-the-ground investigator who spent months in Point Pleasant interviewing witnesses and collecting stories. His book didn't just document the sightings, it wove them into a complex tapestry of high strangeness, connecting the Mothman to UFOs, mysterious men in black, and psychic premonitions. It framed the story as a paranormal epic, and readers were hooked. Keel's work laid the foundation for the Mothman to become a staple of paranormal pop culture. His book inspired countless other articles, documentaries, and television shows, each adding another layer to the mythos. But the legend's biggest leap into the mainstream came in 2002 with the release of the major motion picture, The Mothman Prophecies, starring Richard Gere. The film was a dark psychological thriller that brought the eerie atmosphere of 1960s Point Pleasant to a global audience. While it took some creative liberties with the story, it captured the core elements of fear, prophecy, and tragedy that made the original account so compelling. Suddenly, everyone knew the name Mothman. The town of Point Pleasant itself has embraced its unique and spooky history. Far from shying away from the legend, the community has made it a central part of its identity. In 2003, they erected a stunning 12-foot-tall polished steel statue of the Mothman in the center of town, a tribute to their most famous resident. This was followed by the creation of the Mothman Museum, which houses a collection of police reports, eyewitness sketches, newspaper clippings, and props from the movie. It has become a pilgrimage site for paranormal enthusiasts, researchers, and curious tourists from all over the world, eager to immerse themselves in the story. The culmination of this embrace is the annual Mothman Festival, held every September in downtown Point Pleasant. What started as a small local gathering has exploded into a massive event that draws thousands of visitors. The festival features guest speakers, witness testimonials, hayride tours of the TNT area, live music, and plenty of Mothman-themed food and merchandise. It's a celebration of folklore, a commemoration of history, and a testament to how a community can turn a strange and frightening chapter of its past into a source of pride and economic vitality. The Mothman is no longer just a monster, it's a mascot and a cultural icon. So, why are we still so fascinated by the Mothman more than half a century later? I think it's because the story taps into some of our most fundamental human instincts and fears. It's a perfect storm of a compelling monster, credible eyewitnesses, and a real-life tragedy. The Mothman isn't just a creature, it's a mystery with incredibly high stakes. The debate between a rational scientific explanation and a supernatural one continues to this day, and there is just enough evidence on both sides to keep the argument going. It exists in that thrilling gray area between what we know and what we can only imagine. The myth versus reality debate is at the core of its longevity. On one hand, you have skeptics who firmly believe the entire phenomenon can be explained by misidentified birds and mass suggestion. They argue that there is no concrete physical evidence, no body, no feathers, no definitive photograph, to prove the Mothman's existence. They see the story as a fascinating case study in modern folklore creation. On the other hand, you have believers who point to the sheer number of witnesses and the incredible consistency of their descriptions. For them, the lack of physical evidence doesn't disprove the creature, it only deepens the mystery of its otherworldly nature. The Mothman's role as a potential harbinger of doom is another powerful element of its appeal. We are all drawn to stories that seem to hint at a hidden order in the universe, even a frightening one. The idea that a supernatural being might appear to warn of a disaster is both terrifying and strangely comforting. It suggests that even in the face of random chaos there might be forces at play that we don't understand. This prophetic element elevates the Mothman from a simple monster sighting to a story with profound, almost mythological implications. It makes us wonder about the connections between the seen and the unseen world. Ultimately, the Mothman story endures because it is a reflection of our own search for answers in a world that often provides none. It represents the ultimate unknown. It's the shadow you see out of the corner of your eye, the strange noise you hear in the middle of the night. It's the possibility that the world is far stranger and more mysterious than our modern scientific lives would have us believe. As long as there are dark roads, abandoned places, and unexplained events, there will be a place for the Mothman in our collective imagination. We keep looking to the skies over West Virginia because a small part of us wants to believe that something is looking back. The legacy of the Mothman is not written in scientific journals or history books. It's etched into the memory of a community and the imagination of the world. It is a modern American myth, born not in ancient times, but in the headlights of a 1957 Chevy. The story of what happened in Point Pleasant serves as a powerful reminder that mystery can erupt in the most unexpected of places. It shows how a series of strange events, when combined with genuine human fear and a devastating tragedy, can create a legend that transcends generations. The Mothman has become a permanent fixture in the pantheon of paranormal icons, standing shoulder to shoulder with Bigfoot and the aliens of Roswell. The impact on the town of Point Pleasant is undeniable. The creature that once terrorized its citizens has, over time, become its greatest ambassador. The Mothman legend has brought tourism, global recognition, and a unique cultural identity to this corner of Appalachia. The Mothman Festival and Museum are testaments to the community's resilience and its ability to transform a dark chapter into a source of celebration. The story is no longer just about fear, it's about history, identity, and the shared experience that binds the town together. In a strange way, the creature has given the town a story that will never be forgotten. The mystery of the Mothman will likely never be solved to everyone's satisfaction, and perhaps that's for the best. Some mysteries are not meant to be unraveled. Their power lies in their ambiguity, in the space they create for us to wonder and to believe. Was it a sandhill crane? Was it a collective hallucination? Or was it a true harbinger, a dark angel trying to warn of an imminent disaster? The lack of a definitive answer is what keeps us coming back to the story, turning it over in our minds and debating the possibilities. It forces us to confront the limits of our own knowledge and the vastness of what we do not know. So, what do you believe? Is the Mothman real or just an eerie cautionary tale? Share your thoughts in the comments below. As you close this chapter, the story is now yours to consider. Do you believe the residents of Point Pleasant saw a real unknown creature? Or is there a more down-to-earth explanation for the chilling events of 1966 and 1967? The legend of the Mothman is more than just a spooky tale. It's an invitation to explore the boundaries of belief, to question what is real, and to always keep an open mind. Because as any explorer knows, the most incredible discoveries often lie just beyond the edge of the map, waiting in the shadows for someone brave enough to look. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay updated with more chilling mysteries and paranormal deep dives.